Now, it's time for some sanity. It's the Michele Tafoya podcast.
Welcome to Wildcard Wednesday, this November 20th, 2024. Time's flying, and this one's going to fly by you. This is going to be so much fun. That reminds me of that scene from The Waitress with Carrie Russell when she has her baby finally, and she looks at her and says, "We are going to have so much fun." We're going to have fun today. Please subscribe. Hit that little subscribe button wherever you are so you never miss an episode. We have so many fascinating guests. We had Daniel Negreanu, the poker player, on a couple days ago. It was so great. So just subscribe. Help support us. Keep us afloat. A lot of changes coming. You're going to see him on X. You're going to see him on Instagram. It's going to be awesome. Okay, let's get right to this Wildcard Wednesday because I can't wait. So again, full disclosure, I appeared on The View a number of times. I was in consideration for the conservative chair. I don't know. Anyway, they've gotten in a little trouble lately. So you know about Whoopi Goldberg calling out a bakery in Staten Island, saying that they refused to serve her because of her politics. She has absolutely no evidence for that. And everyone knows who the bakery is because they saw the cupcakes on television and on the show, and they know the wrapper around the little the polka dot wrapper. Everyone in New York knows which bakery it was. That bakery has gotten so much attention and so much support. But I don't think on the show Whoopi has had to clean up her statement. Not true for Sunny Hostin. Now, everyone knows. The View gets ratings and they get eyeballs. They got massive. I think their highest rated show was the day after the election. And I remember on X, people were saying, I can't wait to watch The View meltdown tomorrow. So I think a lot of people that were watching were sort of hate watching. Doesn't matter. They still got the eyeballs, right? Well, this week, Sunny Hostin started to dig in on one of President-elect Trump's cabinet appointments, Matt Gaetz, Florida congressman who recently resigned his post, I think to try to avoid an ethics report from coming out. He has been accused of some sexual misconduct and some drugs. And to my knowledge and to what we've heard here, he's never been charged. But that didn't stop Sunny Hostin from really going after him. I mean, people are labeling him a sex trafficker. They're coming right out and doing that. And the guy's never been charged. So, you can't really do that. So I want to show you this clip from The View, and we're going to show you side by side. I'm sorry, I'm giggling. This is great. Sunny Hostin making the allegations, and then 3 minutes later, Whoopi Goldberg telling her she had to read some legalese. Go ahead and roll it, John.
How could you nominate someone with allegations of child trafficking across state lines and having sex with a 17-year-old? My understanding further on in the interview, they discussed the fact that once he finds out that she's 17, he stops having sex with her.
Sonny, you have a legal note.
I do have a legal note. Thank you, Whoopi. Matt Gaetz has long denied all allegations, calling the claims, quote, invented, and saying in a statement to ABC News that this false smear following a 3-year criminal investigation should be viewed with great skepticism, that DOJ investigation was closed with no charges being brought.
We'll be right back.
And we'll be right back. Man, I mean, the body language and the facial expression of Sunny Hostin as she had to read that statement, which was essentially... So on television, we wear these little earpieces. I wear them here for the podcast too. It's called an IFB. And the director and producer can speak directly to you while you're on the air. So a lot of times you see people on the air and they're getting an instruction or a cue from someone. And in this case, it was, Sunny, read what's in the prompter. Do it now. Whoopi, tell Sunny to read what's in the prompter right now before we get sued. I mean, there have been a lot of issues with The View. I don't know if you recall when Whoopi Goldberg said that the Holocaust was not a racial event, that Hitler didn't kill Jews because they were Jewish. She just said it was man's inhumanity toward man. She got suspended for 2 weeks. I was on the show when she came back, and she told me backstage, well, you sure find out who your friends are. But I mean, it was an, dare I say, an uneducated thing to say. If she truly didn't understand that the Holocaust was about ethnic cleansing and getting rid of Jews because they were Jewish, you know. And as I've said, Joy Behar was unaware that there is still slavery and genocide in China. That was revealed while I was on stage with them. So now you get Sunny Hostin, who is, you know, she called the fact that people didn't vote for Kamala racist and misogynistic. Had nothing to do with Kamala's policies or personality. Racist and misogynistic. But she just said that about a slew of voters, so no one really has standing to say, hey, sue her or throw her. But this one, someone had standing. And that someone was Matt Gaetz. And whatever you think of him, you can't say the things that Sunny said without having to clean it up. So that was a big time cleanup on aisle 9. And for a lot of people, it was tremendously juicy and enjoyable and delicious to watch. I don't wish Sunny Hostin any ill will. I just wish she'd open her mind and understand some things. I'll leave it at that. So that's the way we kick off a Wildcard Wednesday. What better way to do it? The second one, and maybe you've seen Morning Joe, similarly a very liberal-minded show. Joe Scarborough, Mika Brzezinski, they are married. Joe Scarborough at one time was in politics. Now he's hosting this show. And they used to hang out with Donald Trump quite a bit before Donald Trump ran for president. They were like buddies. And then Donald Trump ran for president. And everyone was ordered to stop normalizing Donald Trump. And so they did. And in order to stop normalizing, sometimes what you do is you call someone Hitler or a fascist or an enemy of the people, whatever. So that's what Mika and Joe have spent the bulk of the last 8 or 9 years doing to Trump. But then Trump got reelected. And so Mika and Joe decided to go hat in hand down to Florida, to Mar-a-Lago and West Palm Beach, and say hi to their old friend Donald and maybe decide to reach out and connect again. They have been roundly criticized. Whatever you think, let's roll this first clip of Mika explaining the decision to go down there.
Of President-elect Trump's cabinet selections, and they are scared. Last Thursday, we expressed our own concerns on this broadcast and even said we would appreciate the opportunity to speak with the president-elect himself. On Friday, we were given the opportunity to do just that. Joe and I went to Mar-a-Lago to meet personally with President-elect Trump. It was the first time we have seen him in 7 years.
Okay, who is more magnanimous? Who is more magnanimous here? Joe and Mika or Donald Trump? I would say the president-elect. These two people have gone after him in every way, shape, and form. And yet he said, come on down, let's talk. Come on over to Mar-a-Lago. Yeah, I'll meet with you. That's pretty magnanimous. Now, it seems to me that a dictator who would want to destroy his enemies and put TV hosts in jail, as we've been told Trump wants to do, would not have let them in his house. It also seems to me that Joe and Mika would be scared to death to go into Hitler's residence, but they did. So see, all this stuff about danger and scary and frightening and life-threatening, and they didn't mean it. They didn't mean it. They tried to sell you on the scare stuff, but fact of the matter is they know they can go talk to this guy, and they did. Now let's hear from Joe Scarborough.
Now, we talked about a lot of issues, including abortion, mass deportation, threats of political retribution against political opponents, and media outlets. We talked about that a good bit. And it's going to come as no surprise to anybody who watches this show, has watched it over the past year or over the past decade, that we didn't see eye to eye on a lot of issues, and we told him so.
Well, good for you. And good for him for listening. And you're not in jail. Wow. Hooray. You're still on television. Although it sounds like Comcast is now going to spin off all of its MSNBC, CNBC, I think E, and a bunch of its cable networks. It's just not helping their bottom line, so they're going to spin those off, Comcast is. I don't know what that means for Joe and Mika. I don't. I wish them well. Mika goes on to explain why they decided to go meet with Trump, in spite of the fact that they think he is so horrifying a creature.
What we did agree on was to restart communications. My father often spoke with world leaders with whom he and the United States profoundly disagreed. That's a task shared by reporters and commentators alike. We had not spoken to President Trump since March of 2020, other than a personal call Joe made to Trump on the morning after the attempt on his life in Butler, Pennsylvania. In this meeting, President Trump was cheerful, he was upbeat, he seemed interested in finding common ground with Democrats on some of the most divisive issues. And for those asking why we would go speak to the president-elect during such fraught times, especially between us, I guess I would ask back, why wouldn't we?
Well, why wouldn't you? Because he's Hitler. He's a fascist. He's a threat to commentators on television. He might put you in jail. That's why you wouldn't. I mean, that's what you told us. Look, I give them credit. They said the last time they spoke to him was March of 2020. So that was like right before he decided to, well, that was, March 2020. Okay. And then they called him when he had an attempt on his life in Butler, Pennsylvania. So they cared enough about Hitler to make sure he was okay. But they've been putting on this act for you about how dangerous this man is. But heck, why wouldn't we go down there and meet with him? So look, I want to give them credit, but I'm giving more credit. This is a win for Trump more than it is for Mika and Joe. Because Mika and Joe now look like the ultimate either hypocrites or liars, or both. Final point of this is Mika recapping 5 years of Trump derangement syndrome.
5 years of political warfare has deeply divided Washington and the country. We have been as clear as we know how in expressing our deep concerns about President Trump's actions and words in the coarsening of public debate. But for nearly 80 million Americans, election denialism, public trials, and January 6th were not as important as the issues that moved them to send Donald Trump back to the White House with their vote. Joe and I realize it's time to do something different. And that starts with not only talking about Donald Trump, but also talking with him.
Okay. Excited. Can't wait to see how these next 4.5 years go. It's going to be great. It's going to be cheerful. Again, whatever you think of Trump, look, we voted for Trump in spite of some of his imperfections. Some people say the legal warfare, the lawfare practiced against him helped get him elected. It certainly helped his fundraising. But yeah, these 5 years, this is what you got, Mika and Joe. You dredged up all this crap. And by the way, she says my father would talk to countries that didn't agree with us or with whom we had big differences. Yeah. That's what you do. And that's why everyone who's saying that Trump is, cozying up to dictators like Putin, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. I think there's a method to the madness, and we're going to see how it works out. And until then, I'm just going to hold back any judgment. But on Mika and Joe, I get why people are lambasting you today and all week. Because you told us he was Hitler. I mean, Mika Brzezinski went on The View and talked about the Holocaust and how we were in danger of revisiting those times. They told us about how that Madison Square Garden rally was like a Nazi rally from 1939. This is what they believed. Or if they didn't believe it, it's what they decided to tell you and sell you on. And clearly they're not fearful. Clearly they're not fearful. I think it's more the network saying, you guys, America spoke. The vote happened. The vote was overwhelming. Could we please find a different way forward? So that's what they're doing. I want you to find a different way forward in the kitchen and at the grill. So I want to tell you about my friends at besthotgrill.com. This item would make the best holiday gift. Put this under the tree for whomever you like that loves to grill. So whether it's a football tailgate, whether it's the boat, a picnic, camping, RV, a Solaire grill is the perfect item to have. It's a tailgate infrared grill, and it's just this small little grill that sets up fast and heats up really fast, only 3 minutes to searing temperatures, just like the big backyard versions of the Solaire grills. A Solaire grill is going to make you the master of the tailgate, the master of the picnic, the master of the campground. The fast grilling times leave you more time to enjoy all of the things that you're doing. You don't have to miss anything because you're going to heat it up, grill, cool it down, boom. From picnics to camping, especially tailgating. But now let's think about those holiday gifts. Wrap one of these up and amaze your friends with the great food that they can grill with a brand new Solaire infrared grill. Learn more about these fantastic grills and Solaire's Try Before You Buy demo. It's a demo rental program. You just find out about it at besthotgrill.com. Besthotgrill.com. These are made in the USA, the anywhere, everywhere, and all about. Infrared grills are portable and perfect for any grilling on the go. Besthotgrill.com. Besthotgrill.com. All right. So here's another rich thing about Mika and Joe. They talked about how terrified they are by some of these picks. You heard Sonny Hostin refer to Matt Gaetz, who's been appointed. I don't know if he'll get confirmed as Attorney General. But there's also RFK Jr., who got involved with Trump's campaign. And you knew with his involvement, there had to be some position for him in the government. So Health and Human Services Secretary is what Donald Trump decided he should do. Now, keep in mind, the current head of HHS is a lawyer, not a doctor, a lawyer. Becerra is his last name. RFK Jr. is also a lawyer, but he really he's an environmentalist. He's a health activist. So everyone's going, this guy's not a doctor. You don't have to be a doctor to be the head of a hospital. You don't have to be a doctor to be the head of a healthcare organization. You have to be a leader. You have to be well organized and know how to run a business. Now, whether or not RFK Jr. knows how to do that, we're going to find out during his hearings. But it's amazing to me. This is one of the more controversial picks. I'm not quite sure how I feel about it yet. But again, Mika and Joe have said this pick is, it's terrifying. But let's go back a few years to when Joe Scarborough sat with RFK Jr. on the set of Morning Joe and had a very different conversation. See, this is the beauty of tape. It stays around and it doesn't lie. Let's roll the first part of this tape, John.
My son, born in 1991, has a slight form of autism called Asperger's. But it seems, and again, when I was practicing law and also when I was in Congress, parents would constantly come to me and they'd bring me videotapes of their children, and they were all around the age of my son or younger.
The generation,
something happened in 1989.
Exactly. The generation, what happened was the vaccine schedule was increased. We went up from receiving about 10 vaccines in our generation to these kids received 24 vaccines. And they all had this thimerosal in them, this mercury, and nobody bothered to do an analysis of what the cumulative impact of all that mercury was doing to kids. As it turns out, we are injecting our children with 400 times the amount of mercury that FDA or EPA considers safe. A child on his first day that he's born is injected with a hepatitis B shot under
Okay, so now this goes back a ways, and I don't know the status of all of these vaccine rules today. And of course, for religious reasons, parents can get an exemption from giving their kids vaccines. There has been a lot of fear and a lot of mistrust about vaccines because of this idea that they might cause autism. People have seen their children change overnight after getting vaccines. There's been a lot of study to say that's absolutely not true. I don't know where the jury stands, but here's what I know. You have a man in RFK Jr. who's very concerned about the state of chemicals being put in our food, put in our kids, and you have a lot of people going, oh no, we're all going to have smallpox and measles again. And I would just say, can we hold our horses and can we go through the process of giving him the hearing he deserves? Giving him the hearing he deserves. And then we can make a judgment on whether or not RFK Jr. is right for that job. What I like about all these appointments are that all of these people are pretty young. Now, RFK Jr. is not that young, but when you consider Marco Rubio for state, you consider Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk running Doge, Tulsi Gabbard, a lot of these people are sort of next generation Republicans, which I think is good. And they're anti-establishment people, which I think is good. I've been saying for a number of years, and I used to have a radio show in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. People might know me from there when I've said, we gotta clean house because the status quo isn't working. We're overtaxed. We spend too much. We don't run this country in a way that is forward thinking and looking at the future. People in government are just taking lobbyist money to do what lobbyists want them to do. That's got to stop. So I'm excited to see what comes of all this. I voted for change, and I'd like to see it. I also voted for sleep, and I got to tell you, I found it, and I'm happy about that. And I don't have to take a pill, and I don't have to go get a prescription. This is a completely new product, and it is amazing. So if you have trouble sleeping, and there are so many of you who do, I want to tell you about Sleep Cream. Yeah, it's like a cream, a lotion. So at bedtime, I put it on the insides of my forearms. I put it on the bottoms of my feet. And what do you know? The CBD, the beautifully natural CBD that is in this cream, allows my body to rest and relax and go to sleep. It is awesome. The company is Sleep Cream. It's an all-natural CBD combined with the finest essential oils. It smells really good. So it's not overpowering. So you have this nice scent. It's relaxing you to sleep. Again, going to bed, put it on the bottoms of my feet, insides of my forearms. Within minutes, I'm relaxed. So go look for them at sleepcream.com. And it's cream, C-R-E-M-E, like creme. Just try Sleep Cream for a couple nights. See if it works for you like it does for me. And if you don't experience better sleep, Sleep Cream will refund your purchase, guaranteed. You don't have to return anything. Go to sleepcream.com. That's sleepcream.com with cream spelled C-R-E-M-E, sleepcream.com. And for the next few weeks, use the code GAMEDAY, all one word, GAMEDAY, and you'll get free standard shipping on your order. Are you ready for your best sleep ever? Sleepcream.com, sleep, C-R-E-M-E.com, sleepcream.com. All right. It's a good Wildcard Wednesday to delve into a little bit of Bill Maher. I've been on Maher's show once, and it was great. I had a good time. I think he's a brilliant writer and deliverer of essays, of monologues, whatever you want to call them. And this week was no different, but I went back and forth from going, yes, to what? To right on, to what the? So let's start with Bill Maher. It's sort of like new rules for Democrats. And let's just go ahead and run the first 36 seconds, John.
Okay, and finally, new rule. Someone must tell the usual suspects on the far left that the saying is, when you're in a hole, stop digging, not keep digging. Talk about doubling down on what got you in the first place. Even the one concession I've heard a few people on the losing side offer, that liberals should stop saying the Trump voters are stupid, comes with a kind of unspoken parentheses. We know they are stupid, just don't say it. Yeah.
Okay. You just did it. Bill, you just violated your own damn rule. Stop calling them stupid, even though we know they're stupid. Just don't say it out loud. Like we're just supposed to laugh that off. I know it's comedy, whatever, but we get where you're coming from, Bill. You've never hidden that. You do think Trump voters are stupid, and you'll go on and continue that. Let's keep going. Let's go take our next cut of Bill.
Yeah, I got bad news for you. They don't have a monopoly on stupid. You wear Queers for Palestine t-shirts and masks 2 years after the pandemic ended. And you can't define woman, I mean person who menstruates. You're the teachers' union education party, and you've turned schools and colleges into a joke. You just lost a crazy contest to an actual crazy person.
Again, to an actual crazy person. I think he really does believe Donald Trump is crazy. I wish Bill Maher would invite Trump on the show and do an entire hour with him. That's what I wish. I don't know if Bill will do that. I don't know if he has the Mika and Joe approach. So, yeah. All right, next cut.
You love to speak truth to power, and we always should, but you have completely lost the ability to speak truth to bullshit. The Democratic polling firm Blueprint told Democrats months ago that black voters, a.k.a. their supposedly liberal base, were more likely to find the president too liberal than too conservative. They also found that voters didn't just want Harris to distance herself from Biden, they wanted her to distance herself from what they believe the entire Democratic Party has become, a Portlandia sketch.
Now that is true. So, but he says black voters are the liberal base. Now, I know black voters have for years and years and years tended to vote Democrat, but I talked to a lot of black voters on this show, a lot of black speakers, people who are thought leaders and community leaders who have said, you know, the Democrats have let me down a lot, and I'm just starting to wake up. So I'm not sure. To me, unfortunately, the base of the Democrat voters has become these liberal white women who all they care about is abortion. I guess that's kind of about it. They made that their singular issue. But yeah, you do look like a sketch from Portlandia. Next cut, John.
What a shocker that the people who see everything through the lens of race and sex see their election loss as a result of racism and sexism. Yes, if only we weren't so irredeemably unenlightened, we would have elected a black president by now. Oh, what, we did? Oh, right, and then re-elected him. Maybe you missed it because it wasn't on TikTok.
Okay, so yeah. So he's right about this. Race and gender, sex, dare I say, these are these lenses through which the Democrat Party divides people. Like, enough. We're sick of it. We're sick of it. When I first heard the term Latinx, because I'm Latin, I'm Latina, I should say, I'm Spanish. I hated that term. I'm like, where'd that come from? We are Latinos and Latinas. That's it. What is this Latinx crap? Don't they know that Hispanics are largely conservative, particularly when it comes to sex and gender and social issues? Wow. Okay, next cut, John.
Democrats run for office as if the voters don't live here, as if they don't go to the grocery store and Starbucks and the office, but they do. They live here, and they actually see women and people of color, and it doesn't look like some patriarchal racist nightmare. Do problems remain pertaining to racism and sexism? Of course. But a poll last year asked, if America is the greatest country in the world, more blacks and Hispanic Americans agreed with that than the white progressives. It asked if racism is built into our society. White progressives agreed with that, at higher levels than black and Hispanic people. It asked if government should increase border security. Same result. Hispanic Americans are less okay with illegal immigration than whitey. The votes are in. They don't want your pity. And black people can't afford to indulge rich white people's need to endlessly flagellate themselves. They just want prices to go down and good jobs and the police when you call them. Black people, they're just like us.
I really appreciated that part of the monologue. He's right. The color of their skin doesn't taint, in many, many, many cases, how they see their day-to-day lives. And yes, this self-flagellation that we've been doing, since George Floyd, and largely, folks, because you were told to, and you were told that if you didn't speak up, you were racist. Silence is violence. All those things you were told and you were convinced, and they scared the crap out of you that if you didn't put a little black box on your Twitter handle, you were racist. And they told you that if you agreed with a black person who was like, no, this isn't the way, that you were not sufficiently anti-racist. I mean, it's insanity. This is the insanity that made me want to get into this realm. Next clip, John.
Kamala spent 100 days telling voters, I know it feels like crime and illegal immigration are bad, but your feelings, look at this chart. Yes, there's a lot to not like already about the new regime, but maybe take 1 week to ask what you did wrong. The basis for Democratic campaigns has become, we're the smart people. That we know from the get-go. No need to look into that. We know that a priori, which is a Latin phrase the red hat people wouldn't have a clue about. But they don't need to. Have you seen my "In This House We Believe" lawn sign? See, it says right on it, we believe in science. Right, which is why you demanded no one even debate whether COVID could have escaped from the one lab in the one city where they were studying it. How far-fetched. The New York Times called it racist. Democrats have become like a royal family that, because of so much incest, has unfortunately had children who are retarded.
Well. That's a nice slap in the face to the royals. Yeah, have you seen this in my house, in this house, lawn signs? I've seen those. They're in my neighborhood. And yet, I don't think I'd be welcome in those houses, given how far apart we are. I mean, I've seen some things on Facebook in the last 10 days that made me feel like maybe I should go into hiding. They're coming after us. Okay, next cut, John.
And the same thing can happen to ideas if they are also conceived in an atmosphere of intellectual incest. Maybe take the clothespins off your noses and actually converse with the other half of the country. Stop screaming at people to get with the program and instead make a program worth getting with.
Amen to that. Because the current program that you're on, Democrats, is not the right program. Some of you seem to be getting it. We're seeing some Democratic congresspeople, senators speak out and go, yeah, I should be able to say out loud that I don't want my daughters run over on a field hockey field. I threw in the field hockey, whatever sport. But I'm afraid to say that. And already that Democrat congressman got protested. They want him out of office. They call that transphobic. Folks, fairness and biology are not transphobic. And the few loud voices that get together and try to tell you that it is, start ignoring them. This is about fairness. This is about women's rights, women's privacy. I had a good friend of mine tell me, so what if men are in women's locker rooms? I wouldn't care. Okay, that's fine. You wouldn't care. But a lot of people do. And clearly the majority of Americans do. I mean, see, there's two ways to look at this. The women are exposed to the man. We had Paula Scanlon on this show, the Penn swimmer who went through it with Leah Thomas for an entire season. had to be subjected to that, where the entire swim team was like, I'll go change in the stall, because they don't want a man looking at them. And you can say, well, it's a trans woman. He doesn't identify as a man. He's not aroused by this. Really? Then why do we have separate locker rooms in the first place? Why do we have men's and women's restrooms that are separate in the first place? Are we suddenly now just, it's fine, all systems? No, because some bad things have happened when men have gone into women's locker rooms, women's restrooms, women's jails. There's evidence. All right, next cut.
What good is liberalism if you don't win elections? Last week, Massachusetts Congressman Seth Moulton said, I have 2 little girls. I don't want them getting run over on a playing field by a formerly male athlete. But as a Democrat, I'm supposed to be afraid to say that. Yes, there's the problem in a nutshell. Because Congressman Moulton sounds reasonable to me, but his campaign manager immediately resigned in protest. Let me make this as plain as I can to the smart people. The campaign manager who resigned, yeah, let that person go. Marginalize that guy.
Marginalize that guy. Yeah, that shouldn't be quote unquote normalized. You're going to quit because your congressperson that you work for said that? You think that's anti-trans? No, it's not. He does not want his 2 little girls run over on a playing field. That's like saying, right now we're going through the trial down in Georgia of the murder of Laken Riley. And every time, I just got a pang. Because every time I see anything from that, hear anything from it, and they cut away to her mom in the courtroom, I thank God it's not my child that we're talking about. And I can't imagine what that woman is going through. Does that make me bigoted? Because I'm pissed off that an illegal migrant who was here illegally, who was flown with our tax dollars from New York down to Georgia, killed Laken Riley, a 22-year-old girl who struggled for 18 minutes for her life, and he thought he was just entitled to take her life? Does that make me a bigot? That I want to close our borders and get things in order before we just let all of this crap happen? That I want to vet migrants? My ancestors were migrants. Okay, they came across the southern border legally. And this is why Hispanic voters on the border wanted Trump in office. People want to feel safe. Does that make us bigots? That's the same thing you're saying about with this trans stuff. That you're transphobic if you don't want these hulking men competing against women. I mean, it's ludicrous, and we all know it. Next cut, John.
Try making too woke be a cancelable offense. It's important for America to have a center-left party, and for that party to be competitive. And a good first step toward that goal would be to make the voters not want to punch you in the face.
You ever felt that inclination, like you wanted to punch someone in the face for stuff that they said? I mean, yeah, this woke nonsense, this reason for being that a lot of people have, like they feel like my purpose on this earth is to apologize and apologize and apologize some more to every marginalized person. And to sacrifice everybody else's freedom or liberty or opportunity on behalf of every marginalized person that ever lived. Because they're in the margins, so now they should get all the attention. They're the victims. It's the Victimhood Olympics. And that's what we should be doing. The voters said resoundingly, stop. Next cut, John.
I will conclude by saying the reason I'm so mad at the Democrats is because as a voter, the issues that were important to me were democracy and the environment. And now, there's no one to champion or defend either of them because you, with your aggressively anti-common sense agenda and shitty exclusionary attitude, blew it. You lost everything. House, Senate, White House, Supreme Court, and left us completely unprotected and ready to be violated. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody!
Leaving us unprotected and ready to be violated. Bill, that's where you go too far for me. So your two big issues were the environment and democracy. Spoken like a really rich, white, unmarried, fatherless guy. Not fatherless. You don't have kids. Childless man. I mean, so those were your two big things, the environment and democracy. Okay, well, see, democracy worked here. Okay? Democracy worked. People voted. So I think democracy worked. You're okay. And remember that the Supreme Court is there to call balls and strikes. They're not a political body, no matter what you guys say. The environment, I don't know. RFK Jr. seems really environmentally minded. You think he wants to target the environment? You think just because Republicans are not into EV mandates that we're against the environment? No, we're against mandates. I mean, he's got Elon Musk, the father of the electric vehicle, in his administration. And you think that your environment is unprotected and unchampioned. That's where you lost me, Bill, at the end. You had a lot of good things to say in there. But I think you're going to be okay. But let's remember, the celebrity class didn't help win this election for Kamala Harris. All those people who screamed about LGBTQ issues, all those people who yelled about the environment, all those people who said Donald Trump is Hitler, he's going to be a dictator from day one, who championed the hoaxes around Donald Trump, they lost. And in large part because they're not just like you. They're not just like you. They've got tons of money. They've got personal security. They've got drivers. Inflation doesn't hurt them. They don't feel what you feel. And so that is why people voted for common sense issues. All right. Speaking of common sense, if you're feeling overwhelmed by the increasing cost of healthcare, you are not alone. If you've had enough of not having control over your healthcare dollars, you are not alone. So introducing ShareRight, healthcare done the right way. At ShareRight, you're not just a number, you're part of a caring community. And forget about paying excessive premiums. With ShareRight, you stand to save, get this, 30 to 50% compared to health insurance. Think about what you could do with all those savings. But it's more than just the money you save. ShareRight ensures you have access to the care you deserve precisely when you need it. From routine checkups to unexpected emergencies, with ShareRight, your healthcare is their top priority. Empower yourself today by taking control of your healthcare costs. Visit shareright.org/Tafoya, Tafoya, to learn more and see how much you can save. Just visit them, shareright.org/Tafoya. ShareRight, all one term, ShareRight.org/Tafoya, Tafoya, for healthcare done the right way. I'm going to leave you with an optimistic clip. There is a podcast called the All In Podcast, and maybe you know of it. It's is it David Sachs, Bill Sachs? I can't remember. David Sachs, I think. Anyway, it's a very good podcast. One of the voices is Chamath Palihapitiya. I hope I said Palihapitiya. Chamath Palihapitiya. I'm going with that. All right, close. For as many times as my name's been butchered, I think he'll understand. Chamath said something really interesting after the election. And not only was it interesting, it was hopeful, it was optimistic. This is a guy born in Sri Lanka, raised in Canada. He's now got citizenship in America. He's an entrepreneur and an extremely successful one. So he is the embodiment of the American dream, right? Not born here, came here through Canada. And much like our poker player friend, Daniel Negreanu, who we had on Monday. And after the election, he said this, and it really jumped out at me, and I want to share it with you. Go ahead, John.
I think that we're going to look back on this era, and I think it's going to last about 20 years or so, at least, which I call a return to originalism. We are returning to the founding principles of this startup called America, and I think it's incredible. I think Sachs is right. There is this unbelievable living document that created this incredible experiment. We veered way far away from it. It's taken us a lot of courage to get back to that place where now you can actually let that guiding document govern a highly meritocratic country. So it's going to be a lot of hard work, but my gosh, it's just an incredible moment and opportunity. Everybody should just take a breath and remember that.
I love that. This does feel like a turning point in history to me. And that's why I embrace it. And frankly, I'll say this. If Kamala Harris had won, it would also have been a turning point in history. I wouldn't have been able to embrace it because I think it would have been a turn toward more socialism, losing our freedom of speech, our ability to be just as liberated as we are right now, and even more liberated we're about to become. That's what I believe. Clearly, we have differences in opinions, but I like what Chamath said, because what he's saying is just take a minute and let's see what happens here. We have a constitution, and it is revered by everyone, including the president-elect. It is revered. We need to get back to its original intent, which is to say that each American has agency, has the freedom to pursue his or her, I'll use Kamala's words, hopes, ambitions, and dreams, aspirations, dreams, ambitions, something like that. She repeated it so many times. You get to pursue those, and you should have less government in your way. You don't want to rely on an impersonal government that no matter what they say, they don't care about each individual. They care in this sense. They want to unleash you to take care of yourselves, to determine your own future. But they're not going to go pick out each person and go, oh, let me help you. Have you been to the DMV lately? Have you had to work with the federal government lately? It is impersonal. It is inefficient. It is full of red tape. Every time you get through one part, you've got to go through the next part. It's tough for businesses to get started. And it's less about money and it's more about regulation. Have you looked at the tax code? My gosh, to think about unleashing this, like cutting a string and letting a kite just go, is really exhilarating to me. So I hope you will take a breath. I hope you'll be brave and just look at the future with a sort of a new optimism. And do good with each day of your life. Work hard, do the right things. Opportunities are there when you do that. And yes, let's take care of the people in our society in a civil way, the people who cannot take care of themselves. Let's help in that direction. But able-bodied people who can take care of themselves, why wouldn't you want to? You can do what you want with your life, as long as you're not hurting anyone else. Be brave, do good, and we'll see you next time.